Hello YouTubers, Alaska Prepper here. I hope you've all had a good week so far. It's Thursday morning. I'm doing this quick video before I go to work. And I'm sure that you all have been watching the news on how cold it's getting everywhere, and everyone's telling you that all of this cold now has to do with global warming. So I'm not going to go ahead and contest the global warming part, because I do believe in global warming. The earth does get warmer and the earth does get cooler. But why does it get warmer and why does it get cooler? Now, before you click off, just follow through for a little bit so that you can do some of your own research. Okay, I'm not a scientist. So everything I'm showing you here is a product of what other scientists have said, and I wanted to give you a view that maybe you have not seen before if all you've been listening to is global warming, global warming, global warming. Okay, because remember, ladies and gentlemen, nothing happens by mistake as far as the media goes. Everything is planned. It is a way of thought shaping, and for the last 30 years the narrative has been global warming, global warming, global warming. But why? Why has the narrative been global warming? Not necessarily global warming, but anthropogenic global warming, which means that it's caused by mankind. In other words, it's your and my fault. It's our fault that the earth is getting warmer. Well, after this presentation, I hope that you go do some of your own research. All right, because what I'm going to show you is just a very, very small part of this. But it's the part that convinces me that global warming, global cooling, global whatever kind of weather is not caused by humans. All right. So if you're on the global warming side, please just stay on a few more minutes, because I'm going to get to it pretty quick, where I show you why I think that humans do not cause global warming. Now, set that aside. Do humans cause pollution? Yes, we cause pollution. Does pollution cause global warming? I don't think it does. All right? All pollution does is, in my opinion, what really bad pollution does is it affects the ecosystem. All right? The animal kingdom. All right, like for example, all of that radiation that is still spewing out into the Pacific Ocean from the Fukushima nuclear reactor melting down, I don't know what, 6 years ago now? That is pollution. We are destroying the ecosystem in the Pacific Ocean by allowing that catastrophe to continue. All right, that is pollution. That is something that us humans have done. Right, so we humans are guilty of many things, but I do not feel, after seeing what I've seen and doing the very small amount of research that I've done, and this is obviously not my first video that I've done on this, I've done a couple, 2 or 3 in the past, but I don't personally feel that humans are contributing to any kind of climate. Now, some of you out there are going to say, well, the government has a way to control the weather. Yes, there's been experimentation by the government probably for more than 50 years on trying to control the weather. If you research that, you could probably go way back and research it. And if that's having any impact on our weather, I really don't know. But the narrative, all right, the narrative that is played out through the mainstream media is that global warming is caused by human beings. Okay, so I wanted to go ahead and read to you this really quick article, probably only a small portion of it, all right, so I can go over some other stuff that I want to show you. And this is from NASA. Okay, this is coming from NASA. All right, so NASA warns lack of sunspots will bring mini ice age on Earth. All right, and this was published back in November of 2018, November 17th of 2018. Okay, and it says here, a NASA scientist has warned that the world is on on the brink of a mini ice age due to an extreme lack of sunspots. Now, to me, ladies and gentlemen, that makes sense. The sun goes through cycles, which are called maximums and minimums, right? These cycles last about 11.3 years, and they switch back and forth. They go from a maximum where there's a lot of sunspots, and the sunspots generate more energy that's directed towards the earth. The earth gets more energy. It gets warmer. In addition to the more energy that the earth is getting, those sunspots, that energy that they're pushing towards the earth, allow the cosmic rays that are coming from outer space to not enter the earth. Okay? When the cosmic rays enter the earth, these cosmic rays allow for more creation of cloud cover. This cloud cover, in turn, redirects the energy that's coming from the sun back out into outer space, meaning that it does not stay within the earth. Okay? So the less energy coming from the sun, the more cosmic rays that come in, the more of a cloud cover in our atmosphere, the more energy that is redirected out into space. All right? Now, the opposite, the less sunspots, the less energy that's coming from the sun, so the less energy that's coming to Earth, and the more cosmic rays that are coming into the Earth's atmosphere, all right, which help to create more of a cloud cover, which in turn kick out more of the small amount of energy that we're getting already from the sun, because there's a small amount of sunspots. All right, it's very simple to understand that it's one or the other, right? We're either getting more cosmic rays because we're getting less energy from the sun, or we're getting less cosmic rays because we're getting more energy from the sun. So they kind of play against each other, right? And if you do a little bit more research, in-depth research, you'll understand that cosmic rays also cause the earth to have more volcanic eruptions and earthquakes, all right, and things like that. Okay, so that's just a small amount of research I've done on my own, not a lot at all. But what I've done makes sense to me that we are not the cause of global warming, okay, or climate change, whatever it is that you want to call it nowadays, okay, because global warming does exist, global cooling does exist, climate change does exist, all right, just who is it caused by? Okay, so let's see, and let's just go ahead for a little, let me see, this is not a very long article at all. Well, no, it's not. So let me just read on here until I think we're good. All right, so the sun is entering into one of the deepest solar minima of the space age, Dr. Tony Phillips warned in September. ZeroHedge.com reports a prolonged solar minimum could mean a mini ice age. All right, and a mini ice age usually lasts between 300 to 400 years, ladies and gentlemen. The last time there was a prolonged solar minimum, it did, in fact, lead to a mini ice age, which was scientifically known as the Maunder minimum. All right. Mark Slavo writes that sunspots have been absent for most of 2018 on Earth's upper atmosphere. Okay. The bad news, according to Philip, is it also delays the natural decay of space junk, resulting in a more cluttered environment around the Earth. And why does it result in more cluttered, in more space junk? The reason it results in more space junk, ladies and gentlemen, is because the solar winds only allow a satellite to stay in space for a certain amount of time. All right. So because of the solar winds, there's always a push against these satellites, and eventually they will re-enter the Earth's atmosphere and fall towards the Earth and burn out. Okay? With the lesser amount of solar winds, the more satellites that's up there that are dead, all right? Because satellites have a lifespan. So the more satellites that are dead, the more space junk there is up there, because when a satellite is sent up into space, then they plan on sending up another one when this one that they just sent up reaches its lifespan and it's no longer any good. All right, that's how I understand that it produces more space junk. Okay, It could happen in a matter of months, said Martin M. of NASA's Langley Research Center on the cold snap that may be coming. And look at this, ladies and gentlemen. This was written in November of 2018, and this guy is saying it could happen in a matter of months. All right, on the cold snap that may be coming. If current trends continue, it could soon set a space age record for cold. We are not there quite yet, he said. However, months is not all that far away. So right now, this person here, this, I'm not going to pronounce the last name, Martin M's prediction pretty much came true, because here we are in February. I'll say February, it's January 31st. And he made this statement back in November, okay? And it was a quote. Okay. All right, so let's go ahead and go. You guys can read this article. I'll leave you guys the links, okay? But pretty much they describe what the Maunder minimum was. So check this out. Both studies predicted sun activity similar to the Maunder minimum of the mid 17th to early 18th century, which coincided to a time known as the Little Ice Age, during which temperatures were much lower than those of today. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, this was between the 17th and 18th century. So, if any of you remember seeing any pictures of George Washington crossing the Delaware, I think it was, and there was ice, you know, and it was really winter. It was during that time frame. And the Delaware is normally not frozen. If you look back this last century, it normally doesn't freeze. And it's probably starting to freeze again. Okay. Pretty crazy, though. I think I heard that in Chicago, it was going to be with the wind chill like negative 75. That is incredible. Woo! Man, I'm glad I live in Alaska. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, here, check this out. I wanted to read this little. This is real short, too, so it's not going to take very long. But this right here says, did I say 30 billion tons of CO2 a year? I meant 40 billion. So with this author here, and this is... by Phil Plait, okay? And this was back in 2014, but it's still relevant. All right? This person here is saying that we humans put out about 40 billion tons of CO2 a year into the atmosphere. And that really sounds like a lot on its own, okay? So I commend this person for going on and reading the second, or writing down the second part of the story, okay? So this is where I want to get to here. This first part just says that humans are contributing to about 40 billion tons of CO2 into the atmosphere a year, which that's not contested. That's, you know, from what I've read, that's pretty accurate, okay? But here, let me see. Hopefully you guys can see this. If not, I'll leave you guys the link. All right. So let's go ahead and take a look at this. It's almost impossible to grasp what 40 billion tons means. A cubic kilometer of water weighs 1 billion tons, but it's hard to imagine a cube 3.5 kilometers, 2.2 miles on a side, the equivalent of water weighing 40 billion tons. The largest class aircraft carrier weighs about 100,000 tons, but picturing 400,000 of them still strains the imagination. And then he goes on to say, not to mention vaporizing them into the air every year. It's a vast amount. Funny though, all right? Funny though, it's small. When he says it's small, he's referring to the 40 billion tons that humans contribute to the CO2 in the atmosphere every year, okay? He's saying that it is small compared to the total mass of the Earth's atmosphere, which is a staggering 5 quadrillion tons by mass. This extra CO2 is only about 0.0008% of the Earth's total air. So in addition to all of this CO2 that's in the air, 5 quadrillion tons, all right? 40 billion tons is nothing, absolutely nothing compared to 5 quadrillion tons. And that 5 quadrillion tons is only 0.0008% of the total air in our atmosphere, okay? But it adds up by volume. CO2 is about 400 parts per million of the atmosphere, or 0.04%. How much are we adding? Look at the Keeling curve, which measures the concentration of CO2 in the air. We've added about 20 parts per million in the 10 years from 2000 to 2010. So we are contributing on average about 2 parts per million a year. All right. So I think today, or not too long ago, I saw a chart that showed our CO2 levels being at like 410 parts per billion. So of that 410 parts per billion that's in the atmosphere, we've only contributed about maybe 20 ppms of that 410, 20 or 30 ppms of that 410 parts per million. Okay. So not even 10% have we contributed. Okay, and then it goes on to show you a scale here of how CO2 has gone up. So let's take a quick look. I think this article is almost over. Yes. So that 40 billion tons of extra carbon dioxide we dump into the air every year is accumulating at a rate of about 2 parts per billion when you look at the entire atmosphere. Okay, so pretty much it's saying here that what we contribute to the atmosphere is very small. In my opinion, it's very small compared to what's in the actual atmosphere. All right, so I wanted to show you this real quick. This is a chart. I really hope that you guys can see this. If you cannot, I hope that you go to the link and take a look. This is a chart that goes back 400,000 years, okay? And it measures the sea level, it measures the average Earth temperature, and it measures the CO2 in parts per million. So I just wanted to show you how these metrics correlate to each other over time. All right, you'll see, especially what I want to show you is the correlation between the average Earth temperature, which is the red, and the atmospheric CO2, which is the black. So take a look at about 300, this is 350 right here, 1,000 years ago. This right here is at the height right here, I would say this is about 325,000 years ago. Okay, so at about 325,000 years ago, our CO2 level was right here in the black. So it's pretty much on the highest line up. You see of this chart, it's the highest line up. The CO2 level was that high up there. Okay, and then our temperature was a little bit higher than the CO2 level. Okay, so I want you to concentrate on this line right here. And I'm going to go ahead and bring this all the way to the right. Now remember that CO2 is the black and temperature is the red. And back 325,000 years ago, our CO2 and our CO2 and our temperature was either touching or reaching beyond this top line. Okay, so we're coming here towards the present. And as you can see, ladies and gentlemen, it goes up and down through thousands and hundreds of thousands of years. The temperature goes up and it goes down. The CO2 levels go up and they go down. Okay, so let's come here to present. Okay, look at the black is the CO2 level right here. Okay, this is a few years old, but today you would be at about 400,000. So it would be probably somewhere around here. Okay, but this is the point I'm trying to make. Okay, this is maybe not the best chart because it's not too present. But check this out, ladies and gentlemen. We're at 300 ppms right here, this line. Okay, and I've got another chart to show you. 325,000 years ago, what kind of activity was being caused to cause CO2 to jump from about, I don't know, what is this, 100 ppm down here to 300 ppms? What was causing CO2 to jump from about 100 to 300? What caused the temperature to go all the way up like this? What kind of industrialization was there? What kind of fossil fuels were being burned? That's my question. All right, because my argument is that global warming, if that's what you want to call it, or climate change, if that's what you want to call it, is not caused by human beings. It's caused by external planetary sources. Right? It's caused by something outside of our planet. Right? It's not caused by something that we're doing here inside of our planet. Okay, so let's take a look. I think I have another one over here. Okay, this one's a little more current. This one's actually a little more current, because this one shows that our CO2 levels is up here at the 400 plus ppms. But same question. Here's an even better question for you. Back 325,000 years ago, look at our temperature. All right, look at this middle graph right here. Let me try and expand this a little more. Okay, look at this. 325,000 years ago. Look at this. Look at the middle graph, the one in red. Our temperature was at +2. All right, it was at +2 over the mean. All right, so it was +2 Fahrenheit. This is capturing it in Fahrenheit, not Celsius. All right, that was 325,000 years ago, +2 Fahrenheit. And look at the CO2. The CO2 was at about 300, maybe 310 ppms. Okay, so what caused this if there were no humans there? But look at today. Look at today. The CO2 is higher than 300. All right, it's over 400. But look at the temperature. All right, look at today's temperature. It's less than the temperature was 350 or 325,000 years ago. So if there is a direct correlation between CO2 and temperature, why isn't the average temperature of the Earth higher today than it was 325,000 years ago, than it was 225,000 years ago? Because look at here, all right? Our temperature today is lower than it was 225,000 years ago, and the CO2 temperatures, the CO2 ppms in the atmosphere was lower than it is today. So if there's a direct correlation between CO2 and temperature, wouldn't you say that today's temperature should be a lot higher? Oops, sorry about that. That it should be a lot higher than what it was 325,000 years ago, 225,000 years ago, 125,000 years ago? Shouldn't you say that the temperature should be a lot higher than these? Because the CO2 levels are a lot higher than in these times. So shouldn't the temperature be higher? That's my argument, and that's a question that I would have for you. And my main question, all right, my main question is, what was causing these high CO2 levels in the past? What was causing these high temperatures in the past? All right, and then what caused the dramatic drop in temperature? Look at this. Look at this dramatic drop from 325,000 years to 300,000 years. Look at the drop in temperature. It went from +2, it is a difference of 10, from +2 to almost -8. All right, in a matter of 50,000 years you're looking at. What caused those drops in temperature? And what increased these gains in temperature? All right, because there weren't any humans around driving cars or SUVs. All right, so this is why I think that the next chart I'm going to show you, or article I'm going to show you, is the last one, so we'll be done here shortly. This is why I think that there is a narrative that states that climate change is human-made. What is a carbon tax? A carbon tax is a fee imposed on the burning of carbon-based fuels, coal, oil, and gas. More to the point, a carbon tax is the core policy for reducing and eventually eliminating the use of fossil fuels, whose combustion is destabilizing and destroying our climate. This, ladies and gentlemen, you can think what you want, is a total hoax. Ladies and gentlemen, if you can't see that this is a mechanism being used to control the human population even more, to have even more control on the human population, then you really need to take a look at this really serious. Take a look at what's going on look at France. These yellow vests, I mean, I think it goes deeper than just what I'm going to say about the yellow vest in France. But look at France. These riots and protests, they started because the French government wanted to impose I think it was a 23 or 26% tax on petrol, all right, on fuel. They started because of that. Now, I think it's a little more than that, than just that tax. I think it's a whole bunch of things that just snowballed into one big, it manifested into one really big thing from this one thing that started it, all right? But this carbon thing is just a tax. If you look back, you cannot say that there were humans 325,000 years ago that caused the levels of CO2 to go up. You can't say that, all right? And I didn't make these charts with something. Some scientists did. But the thing is that if you look at several charts that are of the same date range, produced by different scientists, all right, they're going to match, all right? Because this here, what you're looking at here is proven science. The CO2 levels that existed and the temperatures that existed back then, all right, gathered through core data, all right, through ice core data or land core data that they actually drilled holes into the earth and into the ice, So this right here is uncontested, all right? No one is arguing that CO2 levels are high, all right? Now, they're over 400. They're the highest they've been since recorded, all right? But my argument is it human-made? Is it because of us? I would say no. Because if it was because of us, then what happened over here and here and here? And if it's because CO2 has to do with the temperature, then why is our temperature today lower than it was during these other eras where the CO2 was lower than what our CO2 is today? Our temperature should be way higher than what these temperatures were in the past. All right, if there's a direct correlation with CO2 and heat. All right, so let me know what you guys think about this. Call me crazy if you want. I still say that this right here is the main cause. Okay, and you notice that now that the mainstream doesn't really have anywhere to hide, that now there are articles coming out telling us that we're going into a mini ice age, or at least a very deep solar minima. And I would not be one bit surprised, ladies and gentlemen, all right? I will not be one bit surprised, all right, if the narrative that human-induced global warming is causing global cooling. You're going to see that out there. I'm sure you will. I'm sure I will. It'll be all over the news. Why? Because it has to be your fault. It has to be our fault that this is happening. Because if we don't accept that it's our fault, then they lose control. Plain and simple. All right? Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you got something out of it. Not necessarily enjoyed it, but I hope you got something out of it. Please do your own research, okay? Do your own research and prep accordingly. Unless, in case you don't know, if we do go into a grand solar minimum as is being predicted, our growing seasons are going to be diminished. All right. There may be years where we don't have a summer, meaning that there will be zero crop production. So just like the Ice Age farmer says, just like Diamond over at Oppenheimer Ranch says, just like David Dubine over at Adapt 2030 says, and there's a couple other, and listen to Dark Age Ramblings as well. All right. They all say that we need to start growing our own food. We need to start learning. We have a couple of years where we can actually allow ourselves to fail before we really need to depend on our own food. So stack seeds, food, all right, and then everything else. But we are going to need a lot of food stored away, and we're going to need a lot of seeds so that we can fail, because we are going to need to fail before we succeed at gardening. I've never really gardened at a large level before, but I have to start. I'm actually going to start really small this coming spring. Okay, I'm going to start at least trying to learn how to grow my own potatoes. But it's going to be important. If you have an apartment, learn how to grow microgreens. All right, put little beds on your windowsills or in your balcony or whatever. If you can grow inside with LED lights, do that. I'm not an expert at that. Okay, go listen to Ice Age Farmer. All right, and you should be able to get a lot out of this channel. All right, but ladies and gentlemen, what it comes down to is this: it doesn't matter what happens. What matters is, are you going to be prepared for it? Okay, we can sit here and call each other names because, oh, I'm a denier. All right, see, that's just another way of divide and conquer. Oh, look, he's a climate denier. No one can be a climate denier, because the climate will happen no matter what. All right, what's going to happen is going to happen. But once you try to step outside of their narrative, all right, what they want you to know, you're a denier. Okay, think for yourselves. All right, think for yourselves, and when you come to your own conclusion, prep for that. All right, you may not agree with me at all, even though I've shown you everything here. You may not agree. That's fine. You don't have to agree at all. But prep, because we are all going to need to prep for this. Ladies and gentlemen, let me go ahead and sign off. Thank you very much for those of you that joined in today. I think this Saturday or Sunday, I will probably go over the polls that I did for the interfering with Venezuela. That was kind of an interesting poll. And that was kind of an interesting post, because I got some really, really nice comments. I am very happy that I decided to put the word block around there that directs bad comments to a folder being held. And what I mean by bad comments, I don't mean that you're disagreeing with me. You're more than welcome to disagree with anything I say, but with profanity and stuff, because I had quite a few on there. Oh boy. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I hope that you all have a great day today. We will be talking to you soon. Thank you very much for joining in. Remember, if you want to support the channel, there's just a few very easy things that you can do. You can just let a couple of ads run through. That really helps. You can use my Amazon link, please. That really helps also. It doesn't cost you any more money than what you're already going to spend. All right. If you're looking for precious metals, by all means, please click on my link and go grab yourselves some precious metals if you'd like to at my SD Bullion link. All right. In addition to that, ladies and gentlemen, remember to be good to each other. When good people do good things happen. Remember to reach one, teach one, and repeat. If we all did this, the world would be a better place. And you know that it will be a better place. Many blessings to all of you and your families. This is Alaska Prepper, and I'm out.